Welcome, everybody. First of all, I want to introduce you with two sentences what HYVE is doing. We are an innovation company, and we have a special mix of competencies. On the one hand side, we have an industrial design team, meaning that we create, that we invent products, that we do the pre-construction, the construction of, for example, flat screens or packaging or luggage or whatever you see as products which you can actually put on the table. Then we have a second team who's in communities. So we do software, community building software, and also we are moderating these communities. And last but not least, we have a research team, which are engaged with new research methods such as crowdsourcing, Netnography, or co-creation toolkits. So it's a mixture of industrial design, of research, and community software. So this is the special mix behind it. And what I like very much is the picture you see here on the right, because it reflects what's happening during the last years. And it's about opening up the boundaries of companies. So you all know these buzzwords like co-creation, open innovation, distributed innovation. It's all about tearing down these walls and getting talent, creativity, knowledge from the outside world into the company. So that's the idea of open innovation. That's also the idea of co-creation. So these are familiar concepts. Open innovation is more on the technology side, whereas co-creation is more on the demand and need side. However, it's working together with consumers. And why everybody's talking right now about co-creation? Because we know networking concept, technology park, etc., university relations. We are doing this since 30 years, I guess. However, right now, there's a shift in the knowledge of the consumers because the knowledge is democratized. You know Wikipedia. You may know Academic Earth, which is a platform where you can visit all lectures of the major universities in the US, like Princeton, Harvard, Yale. You can go to the lectures of chemistry, physics, biology, you name it. So knowledge is democratized. And the people have the access to the knowledge, and they are linked to each other. They are networked. We have roughly about 700 social networks. For sure, Facebook with 500 million members, one of the most known. However, you have also these small networks. You also have communities of practice, also to low involvement goods. And so these guys have the access to knowledge. They are networked, and they are engaged because they have the tools to do something. All the apps on your iPhone, they are programmed with little software tools. So you don't need really a programmer to do it. Everybody can do it, can program and construct his own app, for example. So people are networked, they are active, and they are informed. So also the face of research is changing. We had the 90s, where everybody went into online research because it's cheaper, you can reach the people, you have time efficiencies, and so on. But it was only a transfer of all these other methods on a one-on-one base into the online world. So a questionnaire was now available online, an online questionnaire. But during the last years, we have experienced many, many new methods, which are really co-creation or community research. It's not online research in the old meaning. It's community, crowdsourcing research, Netnography, many, many, many new tools. And I will introduce a couple of examples of these today. So the major developments in research are here on a more closed area, the observational research. It's observing what's already in the online communities. People discuss everything, also low involvement goods in communities, about every topic you can imagine. And observational research is observing this via Netnography, meaning reading, understanding it. It's an artificial blend of ethnography and internet, and social monitoring, which are two different concepts. Social monitoring is automatically done, and Netnography is most of the work is manually done. And you have these online research toolkits. It's much more interactive, much more playful than online questionnaires, and also some great algorithms, statistical algorithms on the back end. And you have these totally open concepts, crowdsourcing communities. You post your idea, everybody sees your idea, can evaluate your idea, can recommend improvements, and so on. So observational research is more closely because you do not interact with consumers, you just observe and read what's going on in these communities. I give you one example, a favorite example of mine, done together with Bayersdorf. We have Dr. Ruppert here. responsible also for this project. Where do people talk about self-tanning in communities? What you see here is a community cloud. For sure they talk, for example, in fashion communities. They talk in beauty communities about self-tanning. But if you see here on the bottom, there are communities slowly dedicated to tanning. We have tantalk.com, 10fx, 10 Today, Tanning Towels, Sunless, the Tan Forum, Tanning Training, the Tanning Forum, I Am 10, and so on. So these are only communities dedicated to self-tanning. They talk about self-tanning the whole day, if you have to shower before, if you have to peel, which product to use, etc. And this is a great source for information to use for new innovations, for sure. They look like this. Not very fancy, it's just a standard technology, it's a PHP-based. This is the I Am 10 forum, and this is a bodybuilder forum. Because bodybuilders have special needs for self-tanning, for the contests. They have to have the perfect tan for the contests. And what they use to get the perfect tan is airbrush pistols. So they buy the DHA at the pharmacy, fix their airbrush pistol, and spray themselves with self-tanner. Because the tan is then more even. If you use a self-tanning cream, it gets stripes on your hands, for example. If you use a paintbrush pistol, you won't have these stripes anymore. So these are special users. These are lead users for applying the tan. What you see here are the user profile pictures. On the left-hand side, I Am 10 users. On the right side, Body Extreme users. You see, the communities, although they use the same technology, are very different. And communities per se are not representative for everybody. But in these communities, they discuss very innovative concepts. So the communities are different. These are consumer tribes. And you see it also when you have a look at the profile pictures. So about what things they talk about in these communities. I have 10 Sweet here from the I Am 10 community. And she talks about a tanning disaster. My God, this so happened to me. I hate the natural glow now. My neck was so blotchy, and my dad told me I looked like I had a skin disease. It was impossible to scrub off the remaining parts. It's if you use a self-tanner, go to bed, wake up the next day, have a look in your mirror, and you just scream because you're orange in your face. This is a tanning disaster. And it's not only 10 Sweet who's experienced this tanning disaster. These are hundreds of quotes which are focusing on this tanning disaster. And this is real consumer language. What Jamie, she also experienced a tanning disaster. She tried everything to get rid of the tanning, of the tanner. And she used, for example, nail polisher to get rid of it. Others used hot showers. The next one used citric acid to get rid of these tanning disasters. So it's a major problem to get rid of the tanner, not only to apply it. And in the communities, they talk about different tanning habits. For example, in the winter, they tan their faces or their hands. In the summer, they tan the whole body. And they develop their own language. For example, raccoon eyes. You all know raccoon eyes. If you go skiing, for example, have your glasses on, you have these white areas, and then you use self-tanner as a cosmetical correctiveness in here. So these are not single quotes. These are patterns based on hundreds of quotes. So you can organize them, you can read all these patterns, you will understand the consumer, and you will identify these patterns. And it's not about just Googling, it's a systematic process called Netnography. You have to identify the right communities, you have to select the communities, and for sure you have to read it. That's a difference to social media monitoring, which is automatically done. What you won't find, the bodybuilders will use paintbrush pistols, because it's an artificial intelligence, but in the end you have to read it. You can organize it afterwards in a qualitative data analysis software, and then you have to transfer it into real products. Because these were just the insights, the bodybuilders gave some suggestions for solutions, but the idea is then to translate the insights into real products and then test it again. Another example from the field of deodorants. What you see here are user-generated pictures of deodorant stains. So you have yellow stains on white shirts or white stains on black shirts and so on. So this seems to be really a problem also in the communities if they talk about staining. This guy is the undershirt guy. He's a blogger, and he has a famous blog, and he talks only about undershirts. He knows everything about undershirts, female or male undershirts, and for sure, he knows about the staining problems. And he made many, many experiments what remedies to use in order to wash the stains out of the shirts. And everybody who's interested in undershirts should visit his blog. So he's also a great community around this blog, and is also a quite good source if you want to be inspired. And people talk about a staining problem, for example, here on the bottom. If you just can get the stains out with detergent, hydrogen peroxide, or vinegar, make a paste to scrub in with your old toothbrush. The paste is formed with 1 tablespoon of cream of tartar, 3 crushed aspirins, full strength, ensure that they are white and have no color coating, and a cup of warm water. This treatment and rinse cycle can be repeated as necessary. And other one said, I also have a husband who has problems with deodorant stains on his shirts. It is hard and crusty, and so on. So again, these are not single quotes. It's just a very small selection of thousands of quotes. And what we were able to derive out of these quotes is the consumer stain manual, because consumers talk differently about stains. So all these types of stains are based on many, many quotes. For example, we have the yellow stains on white shirts. We have the white residues or black shirts. We have discolored stains. We have crusty stains. We have oily stains, or we have smelly stains if you iron your shirt. And this is a consumer manual based on consumer language. And for sure, it's a great input if you want to develop a product, if you base your technologies you may already have in your company on and match them with the consumer insights and the consumer language. And Netnography is not only applicable for the cosmetics industry. It works for steam cookers. It works for yogurt. It works for hair loss. It works for plasters. It works in the area of sport. It works also in the area of media advertising. People talk about how they read magazines, for example, if they start in the front or in the back or right out in the middle. And people talk about how they use credit cards. For example, in South Africa, they use credit cards quite differently than here in Europe. And also in the area of hinges. There are many communities which are focused on hinges, or even in water treatment. So again, there's no low involvement product in the internet, because to every product, there's a high involved group which discuss their low involvement product on the internet. So this was one example. This was the observational research, just reading, listening in what's already there. If you want to be more interactive with your clients or consumers, you can use online research toolkits, which are much more interactive than just ordinary questionnaires. We again asked the undershirt guy, dear undershirt guy, would you mind if you post an online study regarding deodorants on your page, and you can discuss it with your members on the blogs? And it looks like this. It was a study where you could immerse into the topic of deodorants. There were some ideas of the study. Different ideas were evaluated, ideas were enriched, and then we had a developers index, which I will explain in a minute. So it's much more interactive. If you're talking about a deodorant and say there are some dimensions like it should smell good and so on, you just can drag and drop these into these scales from low importance to very important, which is a relative and absolute evaluation, mostly better than just a Likert scale from 1 to 5 or 1 to 7. And we had some ideas. What you see here are only ideas. These are drawings. It's just a first spark of an idea. And you can't ask consumers, do you want to buy such a deodorant? Because he said, I don't know, I cannot imagine what you want. But what you can ask in the early stages is, in which idea would you invest? If you had the money, if you would be the R&D team, in which idea would you invest? So the people had the chance to put the ideas on the R&D team or in the trash. This is quite important, because co-creation is not about testing in the end of the innovation cycle. It's about co-creating and selecting together with consumers, also in the early stages and in the mid stages of the innovation process. Guess what? The staining problem and the ideas regarding staining were one of the major and best evaluated ideas. And what in the end turned out, where all these information was combined with the technology Beiersdorf already had and developed, is the Nivea Invisible Black and White deodorant, which is one of the most successful deo introductions since a couple of years, and it's right on the market. Also improved with some of these consumer insights and integrated with consumers, combined with the great technology Beiersdorf had. And last but not least, I want to go in an example on the more open area, which is crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is the most open tool you can use because everything is public in there. I have an example here, not from the cosmetics industry, but from a familiar industry, from Swarovski. They are actually a B2B company, and they produce these little crystal stones. And the idea was they want to approach the manufacturers of electronic devices, and the idea was how to apply these little crystals on electronic devices. So we developed an open platform where people had the chance to upload their ideas how to apply crystals on electronic devices. And we offered a toolkit, such a configurator, where you had your, for example, mobile phone, and you had a great variety of stones, and you had the chance to pick one stone and drag and drop it on your device. So these are a couple of designs. These are user designs which were uploaded. For example, MP3 players, headsets, all applied with crystal stones. We had more than 600 of these concepts in this quality. Also the Bluetooth business glamour concept, or speaker systems, wireless speaker systems, for sure crystals on your laptop or crystals on your iPhone. So 600 concepts of this quality. And 1,800 configured designs. You see, these are configured design. They spent their time on the platform and configured this mobile phone, for example. And all the stones are picked here on the mobile phone. And we didn't use only stones which existed at this time. We also used stones which didn't exist at this time. And in the back end, we did some research how many stones were picked, also from the ones which are not in the product portfolio yet. So we had 1,800 configured designs, 630 free designs, and 2,500 participants in only 8 weeks. So the people spent roughly about 8,000 hours on this platform, which is 1,000 man days, or 4 to 5 man years are spent on this platform from people outside the company in order to help Swarovski for this. And this is only one example. It works in the automotive industry. We did many projects. It works for extrusion technologies. It works for B2B. It works for small companies, big or small brands. But this is only a project for 8 weeks. So you don't always have to implement right away the perfect community. You can start with campaigns which last for 8 weeks and then repeat it. It's the third or fourth project for Swarovski of this kind. We did it with many other products, watches and so on. And it was always a time frame of 8 weeks. And we asked the members of the prior contest to participate again. And that worked pretty well. These are the members. They came from all over the world. For sure, it's much about public relations as well, because it was posted in so many blogs. It was posted on Facebook. It was posted in newspapers. And for sure, the participants of this contest, they have friends. They have many friends on Facebook, like 4,900 or 400 or 1,000 friends. And they posted their ideas also on Facebook. So it's not only about the 2,500 participants on the platform itself. It's about the much more people we could reach with this contest. So the contest has more than one benefit. It's about creating ideas. It's about research in the back end. It's about public relations. And it's even about human resources, because Swarovski already recruited 2 designers out of these communities. So it's not a single benefit. It's not only a marketing tool or not only a R&D tool. It's a mixed tool with multiple benefits. What I've showed you are more or less single projects. The idea of co-creation is not really doing only single projects. It's about connecting these projects. Again, the funnel from consumer insights over ideas to test and launch. In the early stages, Netnography is a great tool in order to get familiar with consumer language and to identify insights. Then you can invite such people such as the undershirt guy. It's a perfect lead user. Also in the bodybuilding forums, you can invite them, create ideas together and lead user projects with them. Then you can go into the idea selection phase. We know about the developers index. You can develop your own virtual prototypes. Not only one or two, you can develop 20, 30, or 40. It's about testing more alternatives than ever before. And then you can do your normal concept tests on that. So it's a new way of interacting with consumers. And it's not just a buzzword like open innovation or co-creation. It's not a buzzword. It's a new kind of division of labor with the consumers. And it's, again, a new way of opening your company in order to have cycles of these development and of the constantly feed of consumer input. It's not a just-in-time outsourcing of single tasks. And the automotive industry is quite ahead also in this area. There are, for example, the co-creation lab of BMW. They integrate with crowdsourcing techniques, with co-creation toolkits. They integrate consumers over a long time period and again also for single methods. So again, co-creation is about a co-creation program and not about single methods. Thank you very much. That's so far the examples from my side. And feel free to ask your questions. Thank you.
So please ask your questions. And when you ask your questions, just let us know who you are and who you work for, where you're from. There's a question.
Hi, I'm Elena. I work in Nigeria for PZ Cousins. I have a question. Who answers the question, what's in it for me, for the people that you are asking for input? And what is the common set of answers to that in your experience?
If a client, if a consumer, a participant asks you what's in for him? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the motivation right now for people to take part in is mainly recognition, social recognition in the community. It's definitely fact. And it's curiosity, it's more the intrinsic motivation. It's not the extrinsic motivation, although there are some prices in there. The prices should not be too high in money because you get the money hunters in there. It should be always refer to the product itself. For example, in Swarovski, the winner had the opportunity to show his product at the Bartl Jewelry Fair, which is the most important fair, which is a quite good incentive for him. But I guess in the future, let me say in 2 or 3 years, this will definitely change. Because if Daimler, VW, Swarovski, they all come to you and want your input, you will say, oh, it should be something worse. So in the future, the incentives will definitely change. For example, in licensing things and stuff like this. Right now, the intrinsic motivation, recognition in the community, it's the first time you have a channel to the company. It's the first time you have the channel to BMW to interact with engineers there. So it's enough incentive for you right now. But as I said, in the future, this will definitely change.
2 more questions. Can we have the microphone, please? Daria?
Hi, I'm Daria Myers from Estee Lauder Companies. So when you engage this online community, are there any legal ramifications? Do they have to sign a disclaimer up front so that they don't perceive that it's their ideas that might go to market?
Yes, they have to. These are some terms and conditions. And the length of the terms and conditions differ quite from our client. For example, Siemens has very, very long terms and conditions. Audi had not that long conditions, and so on. This is really depends on the legal departments of the companies. But you cannot... the copyright will still stay for the inventor, the idea giver. But you have to give your agreement that the company is allowed to exploit your idea. So, and as I said, maybe this will change in the future as well. But right now, you will give the right to the company that they are able to exploit your idea.
Hi, Joseph Grigsby, Estee Lauder Companies as well. The two examples that you used, in my opinion, from an innovation perspective, are incremental innovation, if you will. How would you use this for what you would say really groundbreaking, new, innovative? I don't know if Apple, for instance, would have used this to create the iPad together, for instance. So how would you respond to that?
The success of an innovation is not always dependent on its on this degree of newness. So again, this is aiming more on consumers and lead users. But you also can set up communities which are focusing on more the expert users, which are mostly smaller communities. Like we did for Fujitsu, they created new data centers, which is not a very sexy topic. We had a community with 300 experts around this from outside the company who helped them to create new designs of data centers. So it's the same tool, but a different kind of community behind that. And you have to select them more accurately. You have to have maybe, again, other legal things with them, other sort of principal agency agreements with them. So it's about how you approach them and how open you are. And you don't have to be always open. It also depends on the culture you have in your company. If you say, oh, I have so many problems with secrecy, for example, and so on, I mean, in the end, you just shouldn't do that. Either you go out to the outside world, you integrate many people, and you will reduce uncertainty that your product is a flop, but you will lose the secrecy thing. But on the other side, you can still keep everything secret, but you won't reduce uncertainty then.
Any further questions? No? Okay. Thank you so much, Michael.